At some point in the last month, you typed a question into your phone that you would never say out loud. How much should I have saved by 40? And the number that came back made you close the app and stare at a wall. Maybe you're 38 and feeling the date coming. Maybe you're 43 and feeling it gone. Either way, the search happened at night. It happened alone, and the answer felt less like information and more like a sentence being read out. My name is William, and here is exactly what we're doing for the next 18 minutes. First, the honest version of the benchmarks, what the math actually says should be standing by 40, no softening. Then the part the benchmark articles never include, the specific ordered catch-up plan for the person reading them late. Because the path back exists, it has been walked by people who started with less than you have tonight, and by the end, you'll be holding the map with your own numbers on it. Before any of it, meet someone. Teresa, 41, Sacramento, office manager at a dental practice, drives a paid-off Elantra with a cracked phone mount on the dash. Total retirement savings across 2 abandoned 401ks and 1 savings account, $23,400. She did that midnight search 14 months ago and closed the app exactly like you did. Hold her in the back of your mind. She's coming back at the end of this, and where she is now is the entire point of the video. Now, the benchmarks, delivered straight. The most cited guideline in retirement planning, Fidelity publishes it, says 3 times your salary saved by 40. Earn $70,000, the target reads $210,000, and the logic behind it is runway math. 3 by 40 is the pace that lands at roughly 10 times salary by 67, which is what a similar lifestyle in retirement tends to cost. Alongside it, the quieter standards, each guarding a different flank. An emergency floor of 3 to 6 months of expenses in cash, because without it, every surprise becomes debt. Around 15% of income flowing to retirement automatically, because that's the contribution rate the arithmetic demands when the start wasn't early. No balance riding on a credit card at interest rates that now average north of 21%, because nothing you own grows faster than that burns. And the one nobody lists because it sounds too small, you can name your net worth within 10%, because people who can name the number are the people steering it. That's the checklist, 5 items. If you just passed all 5, congratulations, the rest of this video is a victory lap. If your stomach dropped somewhere in that paragraph, stay, because the next number changes the room. The Federal Reserve's own survey puts the median net worth for households aged 35 to 44 at about $135,600, most of it home equity, not savings. Actual retirement balances for mid-career workers hover in the mid-5 figures at the median, and tens of millions of households sit far below that. Read that honestly. The benchmark and the country are not on speaking terms. If you're behind the guideline, you are not an outlier. You are the median experience of your generation, standing in the largest crowd in America, and it's worth saying why the crowd feels so empty from the inside. Nobody in it talks. The colleague who seems fine is carrying a card balance. The couple with the new SUV is 4 figures from a bad month. The benchmark articles get shared, and the actual balances stay secret, so every reader concludes they're behind alone. You're not, and every person in that silent crowd was handed the same 2 options tonight: freeze or move. So let's do the math both ways, because you deserve both halves. The hope math first. A 41-year-old who starts moving $1,000 a month into a plain index fund at 7%, deliberately below the market's long-run average, reaches roughly $744,000 by 65. Not a typo. Timeline. It is a full career's worth of growth, still ahead of you, still unclaimed. And if $1,000 a month sounds like someone else's budget, have it. $500 a month on the same runway still lands around $372,000, which is not a consolation number. It's the difference between retiring on a schedule and retiring on a prayer. Now, the cost math, undiluted, because pretending otherwise would waste your time. Every year of delay at that pace costs roughly $64,000 off the final number, because the earliest dollars are the ones that compound longest. The years already gone took real money with them. That part is true, and there's no version of this video where it isn't. So here's what you're allowed to do with it. Feel the weight of every one of those years for exactly one breath, all of it. And then set it down, because carrying it into the next section costs $64,000 a year, and grief is the only thing on this list with no compounding upside. One reframe before the moves, because the mountain is partly an optical illusion. 3 times your salary is a direction, not a verdict. It was calculated for a specific retirement style at a specific savings history for a person who started at 25. Your real target is simpler and more personal. Enough monthly income, from savings and Social Security combined, to fund your actual life. For most households, that's a smaller mountain than the headline number implies, and it shrinks further the moment the contribution machine turns on. The people who catch up are not the ones who stared hardest at the summit. They're the ones who stopped looking up. Now, the plan, and the order is not a suggestion. Doing the right things in the wrong sequence is how late starters burn the few years they were most anxious about losing.
Move 1. Take the full inventory. Tonight, on one page. Every account, every balance, every debt with its interest rate. One number at the bottom. Not an app with charts, a page you wrote, because the writing is the point. An app shows you the number. A pen makes you meet it. It takes 40 minutes. It is the single most avoided act in personal finance, and it comes first because nobody routes a comeback without coordinates. The avoidance has its own logic worth naming. As long as the number stays unwritten, it stays negotiable, and half the panic you're carrying is exactly that fog. Fog burns off on contact with a written number, and what's usually standing behind it is smaller than the dread was. The decision seemed small at the time to everyone who ever did it. It was the opposite of small. It's the night the catching up actually started. Move 2. Kill the revolving debt before you invest $1. A card balance at 21+% is a guaranteed loss running faster than any market gain you can realistically earn, which makes paying it off the single highest return move available to you, a locked-in, risk-free return north of 20%, unavailable in any brokerage on earth. Put a number on it. A $6,000 balance at that rate quietly bills you over $1,200 a year just to stand still. That's a full month of Teresa's machine burned as a standing fee. 2 valid methods exist for the kill. The avalanche, highest rate first, wins on math. The snowball, smallest balance first, wins on psychology, because finished debts release energy the spreadsheet can't see. The math favors the avalanche. The completion data favors the snowball. Choose the one you will actually finish, because a perfect method abandoned in March loses to an imperfect one still running in December. Move 3. Build the floor, then turn on the machine, in that order, in the same month. 1 month of expenses into a high-yield savings account paying around 4%. That floor is what keeps a dead transmission from becoming new car debt and unwinding Move 2. Then the automation. Contributions routed on payday before feelings wake up. First to the employer 401k up to the full match, because a match is 50 cents to $1 handed to you per dollar contributed, the only guaranteed 50 to 100% instant return in existence, and skipping it is declining a raise. Beyond the match, a plain broad market index fund, 15 to 20% of income as the working target. And here is the part of the system that was quietly built for you specifically. At 50, the IRS raises your contribution limits on purpose. Catch-up contributions, named for exactly your situation. The rulebook itself assumes late starters and hands them a bigger shovel 9 years into this plan. Your age is not only a deficit. Inside this system, it's a key that people in their 30s don't hold yet. If a channel that treats 40 as a starting line instead of a verdict is worth having in your corner, subscribing is one tap
free, and it makes sure the next map arrives before the next midnight search. Now, move 4, because this one decides whether the first 3 survive. Move 4. Freeze the lifestyle where it stands and capture everything that arrives from here. Not austerity, a cap. Life continues at exactly today's size, and every raise, bonus, and freed-up debt payment from this night forward routes to the machine at 100% for 5 years. Run the arithmetic on why this works when nothing else has. A 3% raise on $70,000 is $175 a month that did not exist yesterday, captured whole. It raises the contribution machine by 20% without your lifestyle surrendering a single thing it currently has. This is the move that separates the households that recover from the households that simply cycle at higher volume. Because lifestyle inflation is silent by design. The nicer apartment and the upgraded everything arrive one reasonable decision at a time, each converting future flexibility into a permanent monthly obligation. A raise you never meet can't be spent. The cap does the discipline once in advance, and if you're standing at the fork trying to choose between optimizing accounts first or capping first, stop. Pick either. Start the transfer, refine later. The worst possible move on a compressed timeline is a stalled one. Move 5. Push the income lever, because it's the one late starters respect least and need most. At 40, you are statistically entering your peak earning decades, and every extra dollar earned now rides the full remaining runway. The certification that moves you a pay band, the overdue market rate conversation armed with numbers, the strategic job change. Year after year, the pay gap between people who switch employers and people who stay runs 1 to 2 percentage points, compounding in favor of the movers. Cutting expenses has a floor. Income doesn't. And on a 24-year runway, one well-timed jump can outweigh a decade of coupon discipline. That's the sequence. In one breath, write the number, kill the 21%, build the floor, turn on the machine, cap the lifestyle, capture the raises, push the income, each move funding the next in order, starting with a page and a pen tonight.
Now, the 2 people I promised you'd recognize. Vernon and Kim, both 40, both did the midnight search the same week, both landed on the same verdict number. Vernon concluded it was too late, reasonably, quietly, and changed nothing, because starting felt like admitting how far behind he was, and not starting let the question stay open. That's the trap's cleverest feature. Freezing feels neutral, like pressing pause. It isn't. On a compounding timeline, pause is a direction. Kim wrote the page the same night, killed 1 card by spring, and turned the machine on at $800 a month. Run them to 65, Kim lands in the high 6 figures. Vernon lands where he started, plus interest on the regret. Same age, same search, same math available to both. The only variable that moved was the week after the search, and if Vernon's paragraph felt familiar, that's not an accusation. It's the fork still open, and you're standing in it right now with the page unwritten. Because here's what the number at 65 actually purchases, since it was never really about the number. Permission to retire on your own schedule instead of your body's. Permission to say no to a boss who stopped deserving the yes years ago. Permission to help a kid without doing quiet math at the dinner table. Permission to hear the mechanic's estimate, the specialist's referral, the landlord's letter, and answer with a shrug instead of a spiral. The people who catch up aren't buying a balance, they're buying back the right to decide things. There's a floor underneath this whole plan, though. How compounding actually assembles those 24 years, why the match doubles money on contact, where the floor cash and the index dollars each need to live, and in what order once the machine is running. That foundation is broken down piece by piece on this channel, built for the evening you want the engine and not just the route. And Teresa, 14 months in, the page got written the same night she found this channel. The two orphaned 401ks got consolidated the following week. The machine runs at $1,000 a month she found through one raise she captured and one lease she didn't renew. Balance today, just under $70,000 from 23 in 14 months. On the current path, she crosses $200,000 in her late 40s and lands around $870,000 at 65, a woman who felt finished at 41, on schedule to retire funded. The midnight searches stopped, she says, not when the balance got big, but the week the plan got written, because the fear was never really the number, it was not having a map. You're holding the same one now, with tonight still in front of you. 40 was never the deadline. It's the last year anyone gets to use it as an excuse. So write the page and start walking.